there, welcome to another show. It's impromptu because I saw the film so what the hell is this that I couldn't resist doing a video on it. So it's a little extra. So, and if you know the release schedule of films, you know it's the Marvels. The Marvels is, wow. The Marvels is something else. It has been called by some Marvel's worst film. And yeah, in some ways it is, but I would say the one I'd least like to sit through again is Wakanda Forever, because that's the most tedious film, and to me the most boring, which makes it much worse than this absolute hot mess. The thing that the Marvels reminded me of a lot was Rise of Skywalker, in the sense of it had been reshot and reshot and reshot, and the actors look as if they don't have a clue where they are at a certain point. And they just start throwing stuff at the screen, and they cut out anything that requires any nuance, and it's just like, wow, there's lots of stuff going on. I don't think any of it makes sense anymore. I've lost the ability to try and comprehend it, and it's kind of funny how bizarre it's going, how you can feel the panic of the studio floating through the film. It's that bad, this film. This film is terrible. But in a fun way. This is like, if it was just terrible, I wouldn't do this video. It's terrible in a fun way, in the sense of it's an accumulation of bizarre reshoots. It feels like it was a bizarre project that when they saw it put together, they realised they'd made a huge mistake in what they wanted to do. Because they wanted to do a zany film, obviously, and there's some sequences in this film that are trying to be zany. But there's also a plot line that may or may not have been the plotline at the start of when they first started production. And you don't know. I mean, you really don't know. This film's so all over the place, and there's so many scenes that feel like reshoots that it's hard to tell what was there at the start, what was added, because I think it's been reshot at least twice, or the scenes reshot at least twice. According to the rumours, I'm going by rumours here, it's been delayed multiple times. It was meant to come out before Quantumania, and this film makes Quantumania look like a masterpiece by comparison. Quantumania had its problems, but at least you could follow what was going on. This one, good luck. I don't think the actors could follow what was going on, to be honest. I don't think anyone could follow what was going on. I'm sure the director could follow what was going on at the original cut. But there's so many things added here that's insane, and there's so many bad special effects that suggest that the film was reshot and reshot, and more and more effects were added, scrapped. Something that we've heard about Marvel in the past, because if you see the trailers for this film, the effects look shoddy. Like, when you look at The Creator, which was released a few months ago, that had an $80 million budget, but they knew exactly what they were going to do, and they planned ahead, and they worked with their limitations. Effects all look great. This one, the effects look like effects, like cartoonish effects, and not in a way that feels... It feels that maybe there was a plan to make it a bit cartoonish to start with, but then when they're reshooting and redoing the effects, it became something else. It kind of is The Flash, where The Flash famously went through quite a few reshoots, but The Flash, no matter whether you like it or not, has a coherent story. You know, you can pick holes in The Flash, but there's a beginning, a middle, an end. It's comprehensive. They may have done things within that story that makes you think that could have been planned out better. The big thing is in The Flash is, why did he not go back and stop his mother's murder at the location and find who the murderer was? But that wasn't the story they were telling. They could have addressed it, but the Flash, that they were minor gripes you thought of, but there actually was a story. This one, I don't know what the hell the story was. There's things happen and they're forgotten almost instantly because they need to do a song and dance routine, which is why I kind of loved some of the insanity of the film, because it was like, this is not what you do in a sane film. This is not what you do unless you're absolutely petrified of this film's failing. That's when you do it. Now, I should say the performances are all over the place, but I cannot blame the actors for this, because it was obviously reshot. I mean, Brie Larson looks like Ben Affleck in Justice League, the theatrical version, in a sense of you can tell she's reshot scenes again and again and again. So some scenes she's smiling, and it feels like some of these scenes were probably early. There's other scenes where it's a bit robotic, and you get a sense of she's shot a variation of this scene about 3 or 4 times at this point, and she just wants to go to the bar and get really drunk. And it's that thing you can see within the performance, her going from engaged to get me the hell out of here. It's that kind of level of performance. It's like, it's so inconsistent because it was been reshot so many times, and it feels like there was no actual core to what they were asking her to do, like, ever. I don't know early on, but there's some rote scenes towards the end that try to add emotion to it, and there's a sense of they're probably something different, and there's probably a end point that was probably different originally, and there may have been a few endpoints originally, like they could have changed it 3 times for all we know. But you do get a feeling of an actor who has gotten rather sick of the process of making this film. And he's just like, I'm going to show up, say the lines, get me the hell out of here. There's that kind of level there. And she can act, though, that's the thing. She's a good actress, I mean, but it's a case of, you can tell that the production was not easy. It's like the thing. You can sometimes tell actors, like, they're trying to be professional, but they're probably thinking, if I see this bloody director producer one more time, I'm going to punch them. You get that sense sometimes. Like, this was a production from hell, and they didn't have a clue where they were going ever. Which, at least that's enjoyable to watch. At least she's trying. And even through the scenes where she's looking like she'd rather be anywhere but there, at least she's kind of present. The actress playing Monica Rambeau it's not really her fault. She's given nothing to do. And the problem with the character is, the character's so much like the Captain Marvel character. They're no nonsense, serious. They have their own traumas they're dealing with. It's essentially the same character, been split in 2. And again, that must have not been fun to act when it's like, you get that scene, you get that scene, you get that scene, when it should have just been one character. And it's like, this is a character that, there's a story about in Charlie's Angels where Bill Murray says, I know why you're here, I know why you're here, but I don't know why I decided to understand why you're here. And that's what you feel watching this film with this Monica Rambeau character. Why is she here? It would have been a much better, simpler film without her. It really would, because she's taken half the scenes from Captain Marvel that Brie Larson probably needs to actually have something to do. And she's probably looking thinking, why are you here? What do you add to this? There's only a scene or 2 when she actually says anything that's not a Captain Marvel clone scene. And it just becomes a case of the split action scenes between them, so they both have something to do. But the scenes aren't. All it means is neither of the characters get developed at all. And they're wasting time between 2 characters who are pretty much identical. And it's also a case of, you can see one actor, Brie Larson, who's experienced, if fed up, and another actress who's less experienced and who does not know how to hold the screen. So she's always in the background, no matter what happens, she's always in the background, and it's like, again, she's not given anything to do. She made a lot more impression in WandaVision, where she had something to do. In this one, it's like, do the scenes we're not given to Captain Marvel. It's like, well, you can't ask an actor to basically do that. It's a case of, it wasn't really the actress's fault so much as she was given absolutely zero to do. Like, it was embarrassing. Miss Marvel was the highlight of the film. She's the kind of geeky fan who has superpowers, but she's still a teenage girl who hero worships Captain Marvel. And that dynamic works, but the Monica Rambeau character gets in the way of it all the time. It's like, you kind of needed her to be with Captain Marvel, and then you would have a chance of some kind of coherence with the story. Then you could have given them something to work with. because the whole thing is it's about Captain Marvel's past of mistakes she's made. And it's like if you have a hero worshipper, seeing that in the hero, that's instantly a story. But this third character in is diluting every scene that she's in. It means nobody gets anything to play. So and here's the thing, that's the best part of the film. Is that the actors are trying. That's the sanest part of the film. The plot is a disaster. Right. I wouldn't even start. There's no first act. They start the film with an action scene. Basically, the opening scene is the villains find something that's powerful in the wreckage of their home. And then they get to do the dastardly stuff, and the rest of the film, the heroes are playing catch up. But they instantly go to the first action scene where you're introduced to heroes during the action scene. But there's 3 of them, so it's diluting it again because there should have only been 2. If there's 2, you could have made sense of it in a way and actually made a more interesting scene. Because there's 3, what's happening is diluted, but also it means you're not really getting the actors at their best because it's just mechanical action because it's trying to serve a purpose, but you don't know the characters at all. And to be honest, you never know the characters because they don't have a few scenes early on before we get to the actual first action scene suggesting who they are now, what they want, what they're about. Because 2 of these characters came from a TV show, so you had to basically re-establish them so that you understand who they are for the movie. You re-establish Miss Marvel because she's a simple character in a sense of she's easily understandable. She's a young superhero who worships Captain Marvel. That's understandable. She's Muslim. She's excitable. She's got a family who has to put up with her nonsense. Really, that's understandable character. Captain Marvel is a big, super powerful superhero. Understandable, a bit stern. But then there's another character in there, and they're flipping through the characters because their powers get mixed up. So when 2 of them use the powers at the same time, they get switched. Which is an interesting gag, but that's a gag that should have happened a third of the way through a film. So at this point, you understand who the characters are, what they're about, and then that thing would have impact. Instead, it's like these mechanical action scenes that you don't know the people, and it's that I don't understand the stakes. The people, I literally have no clue why we're having this scene beyond it's a plot thing to get the story started, but I don't know who the people are in it, and they're throwing so much at you, you don't care. And they're throwing things that are funny at you, and it's like, it's too early for this stuff. It kind of reminds me of the Joel Schumacher Batman films, where they throw action at you without any character, and you go, that's pretty, but I don't care. It's that same thing here. Eventually, the characters kind of cohere into one character base of they're all together trying to stop the villain. And they have attempts at character work, but it's very half-arsed, and the Monica Rambeau character has the lamest ever motivation, like Carol Danvers never come back, Captain Marvel never come back because she was working helping the universe, or she couldn't come back to see this little girl who missed her. You just think, selfish bitch. Like, grow up. People move on all the time. And again, that feels like it's been rewritten because there was rumours before that she didn't like her because she never come back when her mother was ill or something like that. And it does feel like everything's been toned down. Like, there was actual reasons why they didn't like each other that were toned down that would have been more interesting, but they didn't want the film to be too dark. There is that sense that you're never quite sure if something's a reshoot with some of these actors' reactions or it was an original shoot, but the motivation for the scene was far different that would have made sense in context, but doesn't make sense anymore. You never can tell with this film because it's always been reshot to hell, but you can't tell what came where. And if it made sense there either. So Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau are on the outs for a while, and then they make up, and you don't care. You really don't care. Because the Monica Rambeau character was a non-character in this film. She really is. Again, not the actress's fault. It just feels that most of her stuff's been stripped away to just make a film that's a character who's just there. And even in Captain Marvel character, most of it's stripped away as well. The motivation of the villain is incredibly stupid, and what the villain does is incredibly stupid. Right, so get this, right. The backstory, any spoilers, but you'll be too busy sleeping to care watching this film. The villain's out against Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, these villains are one of the villains of the first film, and they were trying nasty stuff, and used Captain Marvel for their own nefarious reasons to continue a war against the Skrulls. Captain Marvel came at the end and destroyed their AI that controlled everything, because AI had been causing all sorts of havoc. Now in the second film, it's like, oh, by doing that you caused a civil war between the Kree, and we end up destroying our oceans, destroying our air, and damaging the sun, and it's all your fault. And it's like, really? So you blame the Allies for stopping the Nazis and saying because Germany had some problems later on, it's all your fault? No. It's like they had a civil war. It must have been so extreme that they destroyed their own land and destroyed their own sun. It must have been crazy. It's like, so that motivation doesn't make any sense. And again, it feels like it's been reshot, but it's been reshot with an explanation. Kind of like the Star Wars sequels. The new explanation is like, did you figure this out in 5 minutes? So the motivation and the whole thing is Captain Marvel stay away from Earth and stay away from Monica because she feels bad about herself and blah blah blah, and she's been cut off because of that. And there's other scenes that contradict that. So this film feels messy the whole way, but it just doesn't make sense, because it's like, no, these people destroyed themselves and they've established a universe with lots of planets. Just move to another planet and stop being dicks. That's all that needed. And instead, these psychos trash the Skrull land and steal their air, like in Spaceballs. They take a plot from Spaceballs. It literally is Spaceballs, but they don't have the wit to have a giant Hoover pulling up the air. Which would have helped a lot. And again, this action scene where they're trying to rescue the people should have been more interesting, but you don't know the characters, and you don't know the people who have been moved beyond their Skrulls, and you were introduced to them like 10 minutes ago. That doesn't establish you care about what happens to them, because then they bugger off 2 minutes later. It's like, well, they're here for a little bit, they're guest stars in this film. Then they go to this other planet. After this disaster, they go to a planet, they have a bonding session with the girls, where they're laughing and giggling, and it's like, you've just watched the Skrulls be absolutely decimated and the villains steal their air. Why are you having these scenes? Which again makes you wonder, what was the original plot? And what was the original interactions? Was this a tree shoot, or was this an original shoot? Or, like, you can't tell what came where, because it's so inconsistent. Like, that's why I was saying earlier on, I'm not sure the original villain plot is the one we've got now, because there's things there that feel like they were fresh when the actors were still kind of new at the film, when there was some energy to them. They come there, which suggests maybe the plot was something different and it was too complicated and they changed it to something else. But it's just weird. It's a whiplash. You're like, this doesn't make sense. You're meant to ignore what's just happened. And they're going to another planet to stop them from doing something even worse. So this other planet's a water planet where everyone talks and singing, which was a fun change of pace for a film that was all over the place. I mean, that's when I realised this film's so far off the rails, you may as well just sit back and enjoy the crazy. Because it gets even crazier. And I'm not sure it even knows it. So, It's trying to be crazy, but it's crazy in a different way. It's edited in a really weird way, and it's inconsistent, and it's paceless, and it forgets about certain things, and then brings them back later on when it's been trying to make you ignore them for a while. And the whole craziness of the editing and the storytelling creates this weird enjoyment watching this train wreck happen. So, so they have a musical sequence, and then they have to tell the people, "Oh yeah, these people, these idiots are going to come and try and steal all your water, which will leave your planet drought in a drought." Which they do. They fight back for a little bit, and then heroes run away. And so these people who you've had the tongue dancing are left on a planet without water, and we never go back to it. But it's okay because the heroes got their redemption. Yeah, it's that kind of film. That's why I say it feels like some plot lines were just added, then taken away, and things were changed, and things weren't explained, and it's like the villains are getting what they want. The villain gets what she wants at the end of the film. She dies, but she gets what she wants. Even though it was all their fault in the first place for having a stupid civil war after they were stopped for being psychos. That's the kind of film we're at here. It's literally like, oh yeah, let's after World War II, let's give the Nazis a really easy pass. Give them a couple of bad years and then give them everything. That's the morality of this film. Yeah, they just try and destroy the sun, the Earth's sun. But let's give them a pass. Which again, this is why I don't think this was the original plot. It feels like a desperation move here. Oh, it's so stupid. But so enjoyably stupid, because it's like watching something brain dead happen in front of your eyes. And it's like, again, you can see the actors have switched from being engaged to giving up. Like, I'm pretty sure at some point in this filmmaking process, they realised they were in a sinking ship. And it was like, we have to turn up. We're contractually obliged to turn up. But this makes no bloody sense. The director moved to London 6 months before the film came out to start working on another film. Well, we're still talking about reshoots, which tells you a lot. And she said, "Oh no, we still did it from London." And they were like, 6 months of 6 months of work, still getting done in the film before release. I don't think so. It just feels raw. It feels weird. I've no proof, but it feels very weird. And this film does feel like it's been recut by the studio a lot, and things added, and it could have been scenes shot. I don't know if anyone else came in to shoot scenes for them, but the acting's so far all over the place for commitment that you're never quite sure who was on set directing what and why. Which is why I had a good time with it, because it was so bizarre. The end makes no sense. The end's just a generic Marvel battle that lasts about 2 minutes, because obviously it was a sequence that was cut down a lot, because it's the Marvels versus the villain, and she goes from having lots of people to having just her, and it's like, well, what happened to all the rest of your army? And they end up having to make everyone escape through the laziest writing ever from this space station above Earth. Yeah, it's funny because it's stupid what happens. It's so stupid you can really find it funny because how desperate they are, rather than just have life rafts, which would have in a ship like that, or you can have this desperate sequence with cats that is kind of cruel and weird, but so kind of convenient that I admire their stupidity. You know. And it feels like this is in there because the action scene against the big army probably didn't work or something, and they had to put something in there before the big fight scene. That's what it feels like. And the big fight scene's a damp squid because the villain's a damp squid. So the villain's has motivation that's dubious. The performance, it's like they've asked the actress to sleepwalk through the performance. Like she never looked interesting ever. I don't know what they were going for, but again, was it a reshoot? Was it originally a different performance? And it was like, no, come in and redo it this way. Again, you can't believe any of the actors involved here because you don't know what they're originally trying to do, and you don't know what happened. You just have a feeling of, this is not what was intended for most of this film. So much of this film feels like it was redone. And I can't even think of the logic of what the original idea was, because that's just so far all over the place. But again, because it's so all over the place, it's kind of enjoyable in an absolute mess of a film. And it's one of those films in a past era. It would definitely be an Alan Smithy film. It's a big budget Alan Smithy film. That's definitely you're getting the vibes off in this film. You know, this was a film that director had one idea, and then Marvel looked at it and goes, "No, we don't want that," and we're going to change it all. That's what it feels like. Now, this has happened before for certain directors. It seems to happen a lot where films are cut to shreds. I mean, this shares the same thing as Thor: Love and Thunder, where you feel there was a massive sequence somewhere in the middle taken out, because it starts off, it sets up an adventure, and they have a bit of an adventure, then you get to the end. And it's like an adventure story has a few adventures before you get to you have a few challenges, and then you get to the end. Not we had like one challenge, and then something happened, and then that's it at the end. Because this film feels like they get together, they have a mini challenge which they completely fail at, then they have another challenge which they completely fail at, and then at the end they succeed by working together, but it's less of an adventure, more like, yeah, these people are really bad at their jobs. It's just weird. It's like it does feel like the production design is from the Sci-Fi Channel. It reminds me a lot of the Ring of Power, the production design there, where it's TV friendly. They've spent a lot of money in CGI, but there's a lot of like green screen, and the actors are going in a small space, and then the green screen adds everything else. So it feels like a TV show and a cheesy movie, but more like Gods of Egypt, which this film is in no way as fun as. You know, it's that kind of feeling of it. It's like, it's just crazy. It's also not as fun as Moonfall, which was at least admirably crazy. This is just accidentally crazy. I don't think they'll try and make it as crazy as this, but they succeeded through no credit of their own. But I feel bad for the actors though, because there's no way they would try to give these performances. And you just feel they would totally do certain things at a certain point to try and make it work. And there's so much exposition throughout, which means either something was cut or they had to add something to explain going from scene to scene that was different because they've changed the plot. And the actors were asked, just do this, just do this. And you explain half the plot of things you haven't seen. And again, that's why sometimes actors look disinterested, because they'll spend so much time explaining plot that is not interesting to listen to, and they had to memorize some of this garbage, and they're probably thinking, what the hell am I saying? This is stupid. So this is an absolute disaster of a film. It's a pig's ear of a film. It cost a fortune. It's going to massively bomb. There's no way this film's going to succeed. It's like, hopefully it's this Marvel's wake-up call. Is like, you can't just throw stuff here. I mean, they had a return to form with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but that was a film that was written a while ago, and then they finally shot it because of the James Gunn situation. This is much closer to what they were doing with Ant-Man and Thor: Love and Thunder and Wakanda Forever, the most boring film ever. I mean, the last film I liked, really, from Marvel, the last film I could defend, really, outside of Guardians, is Doctor Strange 2, which was a narrative mess. I mean, it really kind of was. But Sam Raimi added weird shit to it continuously. So it was like he kind of saved the film, even though there was lots of problems with the narrative. There were some good bits as well. It's like he made the bits he responded to the whole thing, and he threw out the stuff that didn't interest him. So there's certain bits in that film that I don't think were that interesting to Sam Raimi, but he made the stuff he liked go forward. But this is much more like the rest of the Phase 4, Phase 5 thing, where it's very unmotivated. It's very much... Marvel used to have a problem with villains, and now that problem with villains has transferred to the heroes as well, where the villains used to be unsubstantiated and just vague. Now the heroes are the same way now. Apart from Miss Marvel, she's the only one here that seems motivated. And even then, that's just the actress having some energy. I don't know how she kept up all that energy for all those reshoots, because everyone else in the film looks beaten. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't want to go on and on and on, but I did 30 minutes in this weird film. This is just an odd one. It's a disaster. So hope you enjoyed this. Bye for now.